What's up, everybody? This is BC. Welcome back to another episode of Supreme Being. Huge shout out to everybody who's been supporting. We hit our largest download day. We had over 4,000 downloads in one day of the podcast. Truly, truly appreciate it. Couple quick things. I have a new Discord server available to everybody, right? Check the links in the description of everything: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Go to my new website, sign up on the email list, and get your free bonus that I'm offering temporarily. If you're interested in learning more about me, what we have to offer, and you really need help at any capacity, schedule a strategy call. That's also on my website and on the link. And lastly, if you're a real estate agent and you want to take advantage of the Icon Ninjas new opportunity that we have with eXp Realty, you can find that link as well. All of them are on my link tree on Instagram. They're on YouTube. They're on Facebook. They're all over the place. So let's begin. Let's talk today about transmutation. What I mean by transmutation is turning something like, I don't know, a stone or something into gold was considered transmutation. What I'm referring to is transmuting thoughts, ideas, emotions, right, into action, or at the idea level and emotion level, changing the emotion, or thought level, changing the manifestation of it, and then what we do with our actions. Because ultimately, a lot of what we filter and experience in life is going to be boiled down to that. You look at how people live and lead different lives, it comes down to that. Let's say some of them have trauma in their house and drama that really affects them at the emotional level. Two people, two siblings. One transmutes that into a reason to take positive action and grow and develop in their life, and the other one uses it to be a victim of their circumstances. Sorry, I have my cats running around on my desk here. It's kind of crazy. Same scenario, same input, two different outputs from a thought level, emotional level, but also outward action level in the world. And that's what I want to discuss today because it's extremely important. Let's start first at the thought and emotion level, right? All of us are going to be perceiving things every single day. Bad news is going to come in, social media, circumstances, life, people, things outside of us are constantly going to be coming into our field of vision and into our life. How we go about processing them at the level of perception and our awareness, to then how we process it in our mind to codify it, meaning somebody yells at us, as an example. How do we codify that in our mind? When we get that input, what becomes the output first in our head and at an emotional level in the body? Somebody honks the horn at you. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. You get a bad email, right? I can give you a million examples. What happens? How do you process that? Because that's the first thing you need to look at. Check the baseline right now. How do you process that from a thought and emotional level? Any of those things. Think of all the everyday stuff, especially the one like a person being erratic with you, a person yelling at you, right? Getting cut off in traffic. Those are very everyday things. How do you process that? Because that's where you need to start. Now, if you process those and they mess with you, right? Like a lot of the salespeople who follow me, somebody yells at you on the phone or they're upset with you. You need to check at how you process that as a baseline and what emotional response you get from it. Start there. Okay. If it's not favorable, meaning it's not empowered, meaning it happens and you laugh, it happens and it doesn't shake you, and you're not at that level yet, you need to do what's called transmutation. Okay. First and foremost, because we have several levels here, we'll break it down to two. One is the response. Number two is getting to the point where the input automatically gives you a different response. But let's first start at, hey, I get a negative or unfavorable response. Let's start with that. How can we transmute that? Let's say I get a little bit angry, right? Or upset at the person that yells at me or cuts me off in traffic. What do we normally do? We'll lash out, we'll yell, we'll have some sort of outward response wired to that emotion that is automatic, that has become habitually patterned in our system. We want to transmute that. Okay. This is where you have people come in and say, well, you know, some of these vices that you have, when you get upset, instead of drinking, go for a run. This is the first level that we're dealing with, that you need to first become aware of and then say, hey, next time I get cut off in traffic, next time somebody yells at me, I'm going to do this. It first comes into your awareness. Then you decide, how do I want to change it and what am I going to do? Then you go about doing it. And it's just a matter of bringing awareness in those situations to when the next time it happens, boom, you start this process of changing. Now, it's not going to be just because you decided it's going to change. It's going to take a while because you still might fall back into the old pattern. It might take a minute. You might half do it right, half do it wrong, but that's okay. That's a part of this process. As long as there's incremental improvement and change happening, you're good. Okay? That's the first one. That's the one everybody knows about. Now, we can get to the point where the software internally gets changed and we transmute at a deeper level, meaning now when I get cut off in traffic, my initial response is the correct one and I don't have to change the response. All right? This would be a deeper level into what we're doing here, to where that negative input, what people would perceive as a negative input, now gives you a positive or empowering response. I get cut off now. What do? I laugh. Somebody's aggressive with me in traffic, I'll wave at them and smile, and I laugh 99% of the time. That is how I've transmuted that typical situation and changed it. Somebody gets mad at me on the phone, I just hang up and move on to the next one, and that's it. And it's left in that moment. It doesn't drag on with me. It doesn't permeate my nervous system and stay with me for days and weeks and months. I don't have to purge myself of that negative emotion. I don't even process it as negative. That's the level that I'm talking about. Now, that one comes later through experience, through a lot of repetitions, and your personal improvement and journey, right? And that takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And a lot of putting yourself in those moments where you test it out, putting yourself in the oven, putting yourself and throwing yourself into the fire to see, hey, how am I going to respond? And are these conditioned responses now conditioned responses that I've put in and that are favorable in my overall existence here in life? Or are they the typical ones which are detrimental? You have access to this ability to rewire that software. One level is getting the bad response and then transmuting that. The next level is to go in there and change that conditioned response. Not after the fact, but before it happens. See, that's another level that has to be earned by you. But this is one simple iteration of this process of transmutation at the emotional, thought, and idea level. Right? Now, let's move forward now into the actions. Into the actions that we do. How can we do this? Well, if we're going to connect both for a second, how about the next time you get frustrated, you put pen to paper instead of yelling or sitting there and daydreaming and getting upset? Why don't you put pen to paper and say, I no longer will respond in this manner. Moving forward, my way of responding is this. That's an action now. Yes, that involves your thought process too, but it's an actual action, meaning now I'm conditioning myself to take the action of putting pen to paper when I get upset about something, when I get mad or when I get angry, which would now require me to take pen and paper with me everywhere I go. Pretty cool, right? How about on a creation level, meaning what we actually do? How many of you start to feel unmotivated or some sort of emotional equivalence of like apathy or I don't want to do anything? Well, the next time you feel like that, start conditioning yourself to do something. Condition yourself to call somebody and then say, hey, let's go work out. Or get yourself into action of, again, picking up the phone, going door to door, doing something, doing push-ups, something beneficial for you, right? This is the process that begins to change, that allows somebody to take control of the mechanism of inspiring themselves and being an agent of their own evolution versus consistently having to rely on something or someone outside of them to initiate and begin the inception period of change and evolution, which is what social media and YouTube and all that, unfortunately, has become for a lot of people, right? It's like their new TV. It's crazy. Oh, I need to watch this video. I need to do this. And then at the same time, even that's a bare minimum effort. Because when you tell somebody to sign up for something, oh, no, I refuse to spend money or do anything. Really? Yet you want to evolve at the high level? Like, give me a break. Even that has to be changed. You want to evolve and grow and be the best, but your level of commitment and effort is very low. That has to be transmuted. Meaning, I want stellar, above average, magnificent, phenomenal results. Then my commitment and actions have to mirror that. And I have to change my thought process and actions behind that. You see, these two are infinitely connected. But you need to see input, output in your life, how it differs. Input, Inspiration, right? I want to be a gazillionaire. Output, you don't do anything. Input, I want to be a confident, well-spoken badass. Output, you don't talk to anybody, you don't communicate, you don't do anything every day except for watch pointless YouTube videos. You're not going to become confident, nor are you going to become a great speaker if you do that. Right? Input, output. How is that going to change? Because the actions become simple. When you become aware of these things that you want to change and say, hey, when I get down on myself, normally I'll sit there and, I don't know, watch YouTube or Netflix or sit down and do nothing. Let's change that. Let's put pen to paper and say the next time I'm feeling that way, this is what I'm going to do. And you prepare yourself because that moment is going to arrive and come, right? Where you have clarity and direction and purpose, you are an efficient machine as a human being. Where you leave it up to chance and let's see what happens, and you don't give yourself any direction or a point to fixate on, you're like a ship out at sea that's not navigating. You're just going to go in circles and in random freaking places on random routes, and you're not going to get anywhere, which is not what you want. Which is not what you want. So we have to look at the thought and idea level because that equals the emotional output that we get, which then dictates the response and the action that we're going to take. Again, these things are super connected. But what you need to do is identify, as we move forward in this podcast, what are some of the strongest emotions that affect you? And I want you to write that down if you can, or if not, whenever you stop driving or whenever you have a chance, make a mental note, at least right now, and then write it down. The top 3 emotional responses, especially the negative ones, which we're focusing on here, that bind you to inaction or that just boil your blood or really get you going to where you start being irrational and you get into some of these actions and thought patterns that are anti-evolution and anti-growth for you. I want you to take a moment because within those is where you need to do some of this exploration and say, hey, these are the typical things that happen in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year that elicit this type of response. And this is what I'm going to do next time. This is what needs to change. Normally, I think this, I need to change that. Normally, this is the action that I take. I need to change that, right? And now you start becoming the creator of the blueprint that's going to cause you to change. But it requires this level of being meticulous and being this detailed in order for this process to begin and move forward, right? This, like I say a lot of times, this stuff is boring. Nobody wants to do this stuff. But this is the stuff that I've done myself to demonstrate to the world and to myself, most importantly, that your identity, your beliefs and your philosophies are malleable, meaning they can change and evolve. Because a lot of that software is based on that. But we're not here to talk about that. We're specifically focused on the transmutation or change from one thing to another in regards to this process. Ask yourself, your good friend, your business partner, your significant other, they do X and it equals Y. What's that thing that normally pisses you off? Well, look there. You need to transmute that. You need to transmute that. Because even if the action or thing that they do, they shouldn't be doing, and you would like for that to change, again, it triggering you or eliciting that type of intense or negative response, that's under your control, and you need to change that. First, at the outward pattern that automatically happens, but then getting to the root behind it to change what's going to happen so you don't have to do it after the fact, but you handle it before, like we discussed earlier, right? But now you have to start zooming in your business, right? In your personal life, in your health, in your diet and lifestyle, when you go out, right? When you try to make new friends, when you're doing something new, right? Fill in the blank with whatever you want. You can now start dissecting all of these different processes and saying, okay, where do I need to change? What do I need to look at? And it becomes very clear to you that you need to bring awareness to these things. And the next time you're ready. It's like a kid that did his homework. You're ready. Hey, the next time this person yells at me, this is what I'm going to do instead. If I get upset, this is how I'm going to change it. Ultimately, I want to smile every time somebody gets mad. I want that to be my conditioned response. Because then from there, I'm more clear-headed and I can really, really give a better response. And I'm more clear in the head and not clouded by emotion to where I can actually think on my feet and process and use my mind instead of being used by it, right? This, in a nutshell, is what transmutation is, right? because this normally gets lumped in with alchemy and all the other stuff that, oh, this is esoteric stuff. In the certain contexts, it can be. However, for a simple explanation of a human being and what we can do with our psychology, the subconscious and the conscious mind, bringing awareness and some of these things, this becomes very simple and applicable to anybody. Because all it is I want to change from this to this. Input, output, right? You break it down at that level of simplicity, it becomes easy for you to start charting things out. Number one, and where you're at. And number two, where you want to change and how you're going to go about it. Because this process is simple, but it's not easy. Because this forces you to confront all of these hidden aspects about you, right? And you might get disgusted with yourself when you find out why you get triggered. Maybe when somebody like me calls you out on something that you know you need to change, it's an insecurity, your automatic response is to get upset at me and yell at me and be mad at me and not like me. Well, that's not good. That means anybody who's the truth bearer, the bringer of the truth that happens to upset you, you dislike them. That's not the right response to have. That's on the opposite end of the spectrum of the type of response that you have, that you should have and must have, right? But that's another example, right? And as we look more into our daily lives, and especially the areas that we don't want to look in or that provide the biggest challenge for us, that's where all these big, ugly monsters show themselves. And that's where you need to handle it, because these situations can really have a big impact on your life. For those of you who are employed right now, work on a team, maybe some of these responses are keeping you farther away from your teammates. Maybe this is not allowing you to bond with people at a particular level. Maybe this is threatening your position or your job or your career because you can't control these responses in certain scenarios. I don't know. The possibilities here are endless. But I know for every single one of you listening, there's 1, 2, or 3 scenarios where you're like, man, I really need to change this, or me reacting unfavorably to this causes this. Maybe for some of you, it's ruining your relationships. Maybe for some of you, it's severely limiting your potential to grow and develop and make more money or connect with clients or grow your social media or even produce for social media and create instead of consume. Maybe for some of you, this is wreaking havoc on your social life, right? Maybe some of you can't even have conversations with people because you get so triggered. I don't know, right? But this is something that has to be handled by people. And take a look. What are those 3 emotions, like I said earlier, the homework, that normally cause me to have unfavorable thoughts and ideas and actions and emotional responses? How about the subject matter or context where this happens to happen? What are those? Because now you know the areas that you need to throw yourself into the lion's den more, but specifically what needs to change and work on, and you assign yourself tasks. Next time I get upset, I'm going to first start with lowering the intensity of me being upset. Then we'll work on changing the thoughts and ideas and action. Let's first not react as strongly and focus on that. Let's keep control of our breath. Let's be aware in the moment. And let's start taking positive steps towards making these changes. Otherwise, these mechanisms go unnoticed, unrefined, unimproved, and you now become a victim of circumstance. You now become a puppet on strings, which is not what anybody should want, especially if you follow me, because you know the chaos and havoc it could wreak upon your lives and other people's lives if you allow this to go unfixed. Okay? So you've had some assignments, you've had some things brought to your awareness on this episode, and I highly, highly recommend you start looking at it, because this is one of those things that people just don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. This is boring. This is, this is that self-help garbage. Yeah, well, this isn't motivation. This is specific things to work on you to make yourself better. There's things that you think you can't change. You first have to understand that you can change them. The next step is, to what extent are you going to go to change it? Okay. So if subjects like this interest you, I highly recommend you guys get on a strategy call. We have a lot to offer you to help you improve, make more money, your mindset, and stuff like this. Much, much more in depth. Check out the website. Also get on the email list and get your free bonus. Check out Icon Ninjas if you're interested in eXp Realty and working with Team BC, and get on our Discord. The links are everywhere. They're in the description here on my YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everything else. Again, appreciate the love and support. Make sure you give us a 5-star review on whatever platform that you're on. We're getting a ton of downloads. I really, 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 really appreciate it. Again, much love to everybody. Supreme Being is the podcast. Share this with a friend of yours. And other than that, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.